Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go.
Wish you a good impeachment. We wish you a good impeachment. And removal right now.
Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
Brought to you by the good graces of Manhattan Neighborhood Network and EVT Educational Productions. And that cold open was a snippet of what happened last week, because we're taping the Wednesday before our Monday air, and that was Tuesday of last week.
And it turned out I was actually headed to an event yesterday when a march went by. I didn't know what it was. It was one of those. And it was going straight down Broadway towards Times Square and gumming up a lot of traffic, but definitely a lot of people were in that march.
Yeah, it seemed as if practically almost all 50 states and a number of cities in those 50 states had pro-impeachment rallies to let, I guess, the rest of the country know that, yes, there is a sizable amount of people in favor of impeaching and removing this current occupant of the White House. Yes. There have been a bunch of polls, Bob. What have you factored about the 50-50, 47-50, 53,
yeah,
48?
It's a lot of it is conflicting because there's one poll that shows a majority of Americans who likely to vote are in favor of impeachment. And then you look at another stat that shows that Trump's approval rating is actually up a few points. So those two different things, you know, they create that conflict. And then when you use a different criteria and just do some exit polls from some events, you find some people still support the president. So, yeah. I mean, you get a lot of that cloudy research coming back at you.
Different polls, different numbers.
Yeah. A lot of them, just like you say, right at the 53, 47 or whatever.
Yeah. So basically, half the country thinks this guy should be impeached and removed, and the other half is not convinced. And so that brings us to where we are, because as we're taping, the House is actually debating the two impeachment articles that they brought against Donald Trump. You want to list the two?
Well, I didn't. I don't. I'd rather read the wording, but if you have it up,
I don't have it. But one of them is for abuse of power,
right,
and the other one is for obstruction of Congress,
right.
And so within the context of that, there is a structured debate going on, even as we speak, where the Democrats have 3 hours to debate their side of impeaching the current occupant of the White House, and the Republicans have 3 hours to do some kind of rebuttal and what, as they say, naysay to the impeachment movement.
And like I usually do, I keep the radio on before I come to one of these tapings, and a lot of the radio commentators are saying the same thing. This is more of a trading of insults than a debate, what's happening today. People making statements rather than actual back and forth between the two sides. And some of the rhetoric is really getting off the, just amazing rhetoric today. So I think, I don't know how you feel, I think the public is already fatigued of listening to it's live wherever you want to watch it, but a lot of people aren't watching because there's a certain level of fatigue.
The bottom line is, after all the testimony, to present as much evidence as was available, approximately 2 weeks of testimony from two different committees. The majority of the House Democrats felt there was sufficient evidence based on the witnesses that came forward and the summary of the transcript, because we've never actually seen the actual transcript of that telephone call, folks. The guy in the White House keeps saying, read the transcript, but you know what? they never put out a transcript. They put out a summary
Right.
of the transcript. The summary was bad enough.
Right. The fact that it happened and that there's a record of it is.
And what was on the summary of the
Yeah,
transcript
yeah.
about do us a favor, though, is really proof. The proof is in the voice and the phone call, but the transcript speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
The summary of the transcript speaks for itself. So the Democrats decided there was enough evidence. The Republicans don't try to deny that what was said was said. All they're saying is, we don't think that was high crime and misdemeanor, and
Right.
we don't think he should be impeached. So,
And the Republican argument, right? They're just saying there's nothing there. We've spent 2 weeks seeing what's there, and it's as if they weren't watching. I mean, it's obvious. You know, it's a political process. They're protecting everyone. Democrats too. Everyone's protecting, their own asses.
well, here, yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no is there are a number of individuals on the Democratic side of the aisle who are in really, really close election fights come
Yes.
2020.
Right. Right.
And what I'm hearing from almost all of them is, I might lose my office, but
Yes.
the evidence is such that I have to vote my conscience, and so I vote for impeachment. So that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
yes and no, it's politics. There are one or two. There's one guy in New Jersey, Van Fleet, Democrat, supposed,
yeah.
who says he's going to change parties because he's not in favor of impeachment. Turns out he's in a Republican district that he barely won.
Yes.
And because he wants to be reelected, he's saying, I think I might switch parties. He didn't say I'm switching.
Right.
He said, but I'm not in favor of impeachment, and so I might switch parties, and I won't say anything about that yet. But the bottom line is, it's because he's up for reelection. He's in a tight district.
Right.
And-
He's more of the exception among Democrats
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
clearly the exception.
He's
And-
about the only one I've seen
Yes.
who's decided to chicken out.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll try to cue up his name in a second. But you heard what happened to his staff, right?
Yeah,
the-
Van Fleet or Van Flake.
Yeah, I'll look
we
it
can
up.
Pull him up. Yeah.
But,
Van Drew.
Van Drew.
Van
Yes,
Drew.
I knew
That's
it
the
wasn't
guy.
an F.
A Jersey Democrat.
Yes, and the better part of his staff resigned.
Yeah, 7 of his staff members. When he came out and said I might switch parties, they said, "Okay, goodbye."
And they weren't quiet about it. They went right in front of the TV cameras and said, "Oh, we're going to the office to get our stuff.
They were
we're out of
very
here."
public. They were very
Yeah.
public. And indeed, last night I saw that a professor of political science from one of the New Jersey colleges, young white female, just announced her candidacy, and she plans to challenge him in the Democratic primary.
Okay.
So
yeah.
so
She
he
picked a
can't,
very
he can't
good
come
moment.
back home
Yes,
if he
yes.
doesn't decide that
Yes.
he wants to switch parties. And
Yeah.
there are already 3 Republican challengers in that district.
Right.
So I think he might be finding himself dangling out in the cold
Yes.
before this is all over.
We
and
don't
done
know
with.
which way that district is going to go, but he won't be the guy.
He won't be the guy.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about we're all this background stuff on impeachment is crucial, just because when we talk about it being political, there
Okay.
is no doubt that because the Democrats have the large numbers in the House, and most of the Democrats are in favor of impeaching this president, their majority will allow them to carry the vote after today's
Yes.
debate.
But
in the House.
but I absolutely agree with you that the Republicans are moving forward, basically selling out their soul and their dignity in this process. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
but yeah, you have the Democrats saying, "I might lose my seat, but I really, this is what I need to do," and the rhetoric that comes in defense of Trump is basically words meant to arouse the public, like this Pontius Pilate comment.
Don't just say that. You have to
Yeah,
explain it to your viewing audience
yes.
what this guy said.
Yes, I queued it up. It's I mean,
This is part of the Republicans' rebuttal to the Democratic evidence-based decision.
right. During that, and this comes from the Daily Beast. It's been reported all over the place, but this is where I'm reading from. during the House floor debate ahead of Wednesday evenings, tonight's as we tape, historic impeachment vote, Representative Barry Loudermilk, Republican from Georgia, compared Donald Trump to Jesus Christ, claiming that the president has been treated less fairly by Democrats than Jesus was just before his crucifixion. I don't want to get his whole quote in there. Let's see. He said he basically said that Pontius Pilate, here we go, during that sham trial, Pontius Pilate afforded more rights to Jesus than the Democrats afforded this president in the process. Now, there are certain quotes that make me stop what I'm doing at home and turn to the radio and wonder if I heard it right, and this was one of them.
Yeah, I heard that craziness in the background on my TV because I was working on stuff, trying to prepare for coming down here also. But there are two things the Republicans kept talking about. One, this was not a fair process, and it was done just because the Democrats were not over the fact that they didn't win the 2016 election. That's the thrust of their thing.
That's the anger.
You are relitigating the 2016 election and trying to pull a coup and negate the will of the American people in impeaching this president. That's the thrust of most of the Republican arguments that I heard, and the phrase was always, "This is a sham process," and the president was not allowed any. And you know this bit about no fairness and didn't allow any testimony.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, Democrats did say, send your people up. You can have whatever witnesses or whatever you can testify, and send us all these other witnesses that can tell your story, that can defend you. And he says, no, none of my people are coming, and no, you can't have these witnesses.
Exactly.
So the Republican can't have it both ways. You can't say he wasn't allowed a fair process and then say, oh, well, no, we're not coming. So so
through pressure or whatever, the witnesses weren't going to show, and they didn't show for the Republicans.
We're part of the reason why obstruction of Congress is one of the impeachment articles is because he flat denied any cooperation. So he basically said, no, you can't investigate me because I'm not sending you any documents and I'm not sending you any witnesses. And that's a clear violation of the House's right to investigate a president for possible impeachable offenses. So by doing that, he basically said, no, I'm thumbing my nose in your face and I'm sticking my nose wherever, or my thumb, whatever.
Yeah, and I don't believe this president has ever read the Constitution or any federal code, but he has a definitely different idea of what executive privilege means. He has such a broad view of what the office can get away with, and none of it, or the essential part that affects impeachment, very little of it is real. He just sort of invents as he needs to pull out a privilege.
Interestingly enough, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Gerald Nadler, actually rebutted one of the Republican charges by saying a similar thing. The president did not in one instance invoke executive privilege. The president just flatly by fiat said, none of my people will testify.
Right.
And that's a big difference.
Yes, exactly.
Because executive privilege, you really have to fight that in court, but by saying none of my people will come before you, that's just saying you don't have the right to investigate me.
Right.
That's not executive privilege. That's just, I am king. I am God. You can do nothing to me. And you know what? The Democrats said, no, you're not king, you're not God. So they voted up, especially this obstruction of Congress article. So here's my question, Bob. We can predict on this Wednesday taping day that by tonight or sometime tomorrow, depending on how long this debate goes or how long the vote takes, that the Democrats, because of their majority, will pass the impeachment vote successfully, and Donald Trump
there's sufficient cushion.
Will probably be, the third president to actually be impeached, because Richard Nixon quit before they got because he knew he was going to be found guilty and kicked out.
The fourth to
to go through the process.
Yes.
But the third to actually
Yes, as
gonna
of
be impeached.
as of the vote tonight.
Right.
If once
and
once the
I'm
gavel
gonna-
comes down.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, everybody is saying, and I say everybody, all the pundits and all the people, and there was some polling done that said most college-educated people, especially white people, believe that, yeah, this guy's probably going to be impeached. He will not be convicted in the Senate. They just flat outright
right.
said it. And I can see why they would say that, because did you see the thing that Mitch McConnell came out and said yesterday? I am not impartial.
Did he actually say that?
Oh, he came right out.
Whoa,
He
whoa.
came right out. He
Yeah,
said that. He may not have said it yesterday. He may have said it Sunday on one of the Fox
Okay.
News shows.
I am not impartial.
He said, I'm not an impartial juror. This is a political process. Now,
That's-
that for me was the most egregious statement. Donald Trump lies and says all kinds of strange things.
Yeah.
Because we know he's a pathological liar. And so anything that comes out of his mouth, you don't get shocked anymore, even though you should. But for the majority of the Senate to come right out and says, I'm not an impartial juror, when the job of the Senate is to impartially judge the evidence that's brought to them by whoever is presenting the case from the House of Representatives, that for me is grounds for him to be thrown out of office, because he's going to have to take an oath to actually be a fair and impartial juror
That's
in this impeachment.
as they impanel the impeachment.
The Senate
Yeah.
is the actual jurors for an impeachment trial.
So just think of it. Think of a jury going to a defendant, either in criminal or civil case, and saying, "Hey, defendant, come in here. Let's see how we're going to handle this. Let's see how we ought to proceed and bring." And that's essentially what's happening here. McConnell and Trump, and at least I'll give McConnell credit for being honest. We always knew he was not fair.
I'm not giving him credit for being honest. I mean, you can say that.
Yeah, but
that is a goddamn violation.
No, it absolutely is.
Desecration.
And you don't have to be a constitutional scholar.
That is just okay. So this man has come right out and said that. Here's my other question to you: who presides at an impeachment trial in the Senate? Who's the judge?
Well, the head of the chief judge of the Supreme Court.
The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. That it's going to be John Roberts, who's our current Chief Justice.
He's a Bush appointment, correct?
I believe Bush, or he's a Republican appointee.
Yeah.
But and as much as he leans towards corporations and stuff in his rulings and stuff, sometimes he tries to pretend or tries to actually do right by the Constitution.
There's a couple
There's
of
some
decisions.
things Citizens United and a whole bunch of stuff. I'm telling you.
But once in a while
he will surprise us.
Yes, and come out on the on the side of the Constitution.
Right. Every once in a while it comes out, and on the side of the people that the Constitution was designed to protect, was written to protect.
Yes.
So my question to you, Bob, there are no real rules because there's so few impeachment.
Right.
But in any court or trial, the presiding judge has a fair amount of, I'd say, authority in how proceedings go, since there are no real precedent-setting rules for how these things go.
Right. Normally it would be case law, but there have been so few instances. There's little case law. But go ahead.
So because this is a trial that actually hinges on the key principle about separation of powers.
Exactly.
That the president needs to be checked by these branches of government. That's why the Constitution said the House has sole power of impeachment, and then it says the Senate, after these people impeach, you guys over here, co-equal branches, you get to try him, and the third branch, you get to sit in judgment.
Yes.
So if one branch is saying, I'm not going to be impartial, where's that leave that third branch? My question to you is, what do you think Chief Justice Roberts, what's he mulling over right now about hearing his supposed impartial juror saying publicly, I am not going to be impartial before he takes this oath of office, folks. What's on Judge Roberts' plate?
He will probably try to insulate himself as much as possible from the political machinations of what's going on here, because
But he's the judge.
he's the judge, but
So,
he has the
he's
Constitution.
the judge, and some guy has said,
Yeah.
I don't plan to be impartial. So what does the judge do about something like that?
Well, nothing yet, because he's not on the record.
And he's not in the judge's chamber yet.
Exactly.
Nobody's sworn in.
And it's not part of the record yet. So should he utter anything leaning towards that, he would have a big problem if if McConnell had an opening statement or whatever and said that, then the judge would have something to act on, because that's not.
Never mind the statement. If McConnell, having the large majority in the Senate, not large, but a majority in the
Enough
Senate,
of a
tries
majority.
to ramrod
Yes.
this thing, not in an impartial way, what leeway does the judge
The
have,
judge
since
can-
he's now the judge?
No,
It's in a proceeding that's actually now in progress.
No, the judge runs the court, the procedure. If McConnell doesn't follow the proper procedure, and being a judge, that's what you get to do. You get to be a little subjective. That's what judges do. You get to make rulings.
It's your court, you presiding, you should be able to
You're making
say,
the call.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And I could see a lot of pushback on McConnell should he see things being railroaded, because he can control that process.
So you're thinking like I'm thinking, in that what you're saying is the judge has some latitude to try to make sure that this process is actually done with a degree of impartiality and justice is served if the judge is going to be a true judge.
Yes,
All
and
right.
he can't affect the votes. At the end of the day, the Senate, the Republican senators, they'll vote the way they want.
It's a matter of how the evidence is presented.
I agree with that.
How well things go.
Yes.
Is it a sham thing, or did the judge have enough control to make it be a true presentation?
Roberts has a lot of pride in what he does, and I don't think he would allow a sham to go through.
We shall see.
So, that's my opinion of Roberts. Like you said, his corporate decisions, I can.
There's a lot of decisions
Lot-
that I
lot-
really
it's
question.
messed up.
But so, folks, here's what we're actually throwing out at you. I have not heard this speculated on publicly anywhere thus far. And I think it's because people keep forgetting that there are three branches of government involved
Very
in
good
this
point.
impeachment.
Very good point, because.
And so,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Finish your
so
thought.
what I'm thinking, folks, is there is one, not wild card, but one true anchor
Yes.
that could make this process actually play out the way it should, and that is if the Chief Justice, who is the presiding judge, actually deals with the issue in a fair and legally upright manner. Go.
No, I think that's his opportunity, because how many Chief Justices get to preside over an impeachment trial?
Yes.
So this is his moment too, and he's not going to go down as the Chief Justice for a trial that was like open and shut case. No, he's not. I don't think he'll allow that, just because, from what I've heard, from his rulings, that he has a lot of pride in defending the Constitution.
All right.
And
we are on the same hopeful path.
yes.
Now,
We've
folks,
been disappointed.
We're
a
not
lot.
predicting.
Yes.
Our prediction,
Yes.
he's going to get voted for and impeached.
Yeah.
In the trial, I'm not sure how it's going to go, but our cards are now on. Bets are on Roberts to make it be a fair trial.
Yes.
But we're not predicting anything. that one's up for grabs. So.
But you know what the beauty of this process is? Roberts is the one guy Trump can't bully.
There's nobody on that bench that he can bully.
But he'll be there. He'll be
Yes,
running that show.
That's true.
I mean,
In
the other
in
justices.
proceedings.
Yeah,
yes.
the other justices.
The other jurors in the Senate, he can bully.
But the other justices will be spectators just like us.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So it's his show.
So that's our pre-impeachment vote and trial projection, folk. Before we close out this show, we need to go back and revisit some of our Being Black in America stories, just because
But
other things are going on.
We
and
we only have like 3 minutes.
Okay, so in 3 minutes, let's do a quick roundup. So back a few months ago, Russell Westbrook, the former Oklahoma Thunder
Yes.
guard.
He's now with
He's now with the Houston Rockets.
With
He had an altercation with a fan out in Utah, and the altercation was such that Westbrook said this guy in the stands threw some racial comments at him, saying, "Get down on your knees the way you used to."
Yes.
And Westbrook said something to the effect, "You think I'm playing with you? I will F you up, you and your wife."
Yes.
so everybody was upset at how upset Westbrook was. When it came out that this guy had gone racial on him, he got a lot of backing, and so the Utah Jazz reviewed the video and eyewitness accounts, and they banned this guy.
Yes, banned for life at the arena.
Banned him for life. So now the guy and his fiancée, it wasn't his wife, his fiancée, they've sued Russell Westbrook and the Utah Jazz to the tune of $100 million.
Yes.
68 from this guy and 22 or whatever from the fiancée.
Yes.
And the Utah Jazz people said, meritless case, whatever. But it turns out that this guy was a former Utah State police sergeant.
Okay.
Trooper. And he claimed, he didn't say get down on your knee, he claimed, "Oh, wrap your knees so they'll help you at the end of the game."
Right.
So if you want to believe that, I got a bridge I'll sell you. But he had some racist tweets and threats on his Twitter account against Westbrook. So I don't think he's going to win this lawsuit.
No. I think the judge will.
So that's the upper end.
That'll be
you
an
can
easy
be
one.
rich and black, you're still going to be black in America.
Absolutely.
The other end, this woman in North Carolina, I don't know if I can call up the story, black woman's about to be possibly going to jail because...
She basically, police rushed into her house. They had a warrant for her arrest, and she wanted to know what she was going to be arrested for, and it was?
Turned out that she was on probation after having been convicted of a felony. And if she'd finished her probation, she would have been back in good graces. But she didn't know that she couldn't register to vote or vote while she was still on probation. And so she actually voted. And once she voted,
she was in violation.
Yes, of the law. And so, lo and behold, they came to arrest her. Her lawyer said she wasn't trying to con anybody, and so they don't think that they should be prosecuted. But this North Carolina DA, I don't know what North Carolina town it was.
But we only have 20 seconds.
But they want to prosecute her and send her to jail. She might be facing 19 months in jail. Okay. So those are two examples of being black in America. She's a black woman. The law was designed to keep white voters.
It's an old Jim Crow law.
Right.
Yes.
This has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. Catch up with us on Twitter and YouTube at Media Watch EVT.
And we'll catch you the next time.